Hey guys, just a quick disclaimer before we begin. This episode contains content that some listeners may find disturbing, so maybe don't listen with children around. Okay, now that's out of the way, on with the show. Hello Internet, and welcome to Ramblings of a Madman. I'm Alex, and I'm joined by Sean and Stuart for a shallow and probably uninformed dive into the world of unexplained mysteries, conspiracy theories, and the supernatural. Yo, 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 it's your boy. We're back for this podcast that we do every now and then.
Best intro, 2012, 21.
Yeah. Completely off the cuff. I had no intro prepared. That's what you're getting.
We usually have an intro prepared.
I mean, sometimes.
No, come on, it's always the messiest part of our episodes.
Yep.
Slash the best part.
Slash probably the only bit that actually gets listened to for a lot of people clicking on.
Well, I think it's a good. It sets the mood very well for the rest of the show. So
sets the expectations.
Yeah, just very low, and like if you want to sit for it, go for it. But
it's like that saying, "Treat 'em mean, keep 'em keen," except it puts everybody off.
Sure, and then we get no views.
And then I host the episode.
And it gets no views.
And we get negative views.
I want to get my view back. It's not good enough.
Okay, well, on that note, I am
Sean, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Wait,
I'm introducing myself this time.
No, let me chill. Please let me chill.
Oh,
I forgot last time.
The shill. Go on.
Yeah, so we're available on pretty much every podcast platform out there. If you want to listen to us, just search for Ramblings of a Madman or Rome Podcast, ROAM Podcast. If you want, give us a rating or a review, preferably on iTunes, because that's like the best place for reviews. If not, good, you don't have to, no one's making you. And that's the shilling done. How was that? Was that good?
That was the worst one so far.
Yeah.
I don't even want to have a go at you for being a dirty little shiller. Like, anyway, let's get cracking. Are we ready?
Yes, I'm prepared.
Okay, right. This one I'm really excited about. It's actually regained popularity recently because a series is coming out on Netflix very soon, and by the time that we release this episode, it might be out. I'm not sure exactly when it is, but it might be worth a watch. I think it's a dramatized version of it, less than a documentary, but we're definitely going to cover it right now.
So listen to this episode first and spoil the whole series for yourself, and then watch the series.
Yeah, basically.
Excellent.
So this is about Elisa Lam. She was a student born on 30th of April 1991 in Vancouver, Canada. In 2013, she went on holiday to Los Angeles, and on the 26th of January, she checked into the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles, California. The Cecil Hotel has since changed its name. It's rebranded to Stay on Main, presumably because it's on Main Street.
What a weird name for a hotel.
Stay on Main. Stay on Main. Cecil Hotel. But
Cecil Hotel.
Cecil Hotel. Maybe it's Cecil.
He's already doubting himself.
And I've already every video I watched said Cecil, but Cecil sounds better. I have prepared this. I prepared this. You leave it. Okay, that's all right then. You completely knocked me off now.
Right, my job.
The Cecil Hotel. So she checked in on the 26th of January. On the 31st of January was the last time she was seen. She was meant to check out the next day, and she never checked out. So every single day of the holiday, she had called her family just to chat, keep them updated with how the holiday's going. At this point, I believe she was 21 as well, so she's still in university doing all that.
And what year was this, sorry?
The year this happened was 2013.
2013.
So 7 years ago.
Okay.
So a nice recent one. I think it's actually the most recent one we've done. So she hadn't called. Her family got instantly really worried. You know, the majority of the day, their daughter hadn't called. Something's changed. Something's wrong. She never checked out of the hotel. The police were called to start the investigation. Missing person investigation went out straight away. Like, where is she? She wasn't in the hotel room, all this sort of stuff. An eyewitness from the local bookstore was the last person to have seen her at this point. And, the hotel staff probably saw her, but outside of the hotel, there was an eyewitness from a local bookstore. The manager had seen her, had spoken to her, spoke about the book that she was buying. She was talking about buying gifts for her family, and what she was going to take back.
And this is on the 31st?
She was last seen on the 31st of January. It was the 1st of February that they started looking.
Yeah. So the bookkeeper saw her on the 31st?
Yes.
She's due to check out the following day?
Yes.
Okay. It was the bookkeeper.
It was the bookkeeper. A few days later, I think around about the 11th of February, I'm not sure an exact date this video was released, but the hotel released footage, CCTV footage, and they found that it was actually her. I'm going to send you a link now if you guys want to watch that. Basically, anyone listening, obviously not if you're driving, but go to YouTube, search Elisa Lam, ELISALAM, surveillance footage, CCTV, whatever you want to call it. The channel is CBS News. It's about 2 minutes long, and that is the CCTV footage of the last time she was seen.
I'll link it as well below.
Okay, perfect.
It does show her behaving particularly unusually. So if people have started watching it at the same point that Sean said that he linked it to us, so she's been peering out of an elevator and she's glancing left and right, almost in paranoia, but the lift isn't moving. It looks stationary, and bizarrely she's just stepped out of it, and it's just kind of stepping in and out of it despite not really engaging with the lift moving.
Yeah, when she first gets in, she presses all the buttons and then stands there, and then for some reason hides in the corner, and then everything that you just said happens. And the doors aren't closing, she steps in and out. Keep watching and describe what you're seeing.
So for me, so far, we're about halfway into the video. She's stepped outside. She suddenly seems quite distressed. She's raising her hands to her head. And she's gone back and she's pressed all the lift buttons again, but the lift is still not moving.
When you're saying that as well, she's not doing it frantically, as far as that's my
it's quite
interpretation.
methodical.
She's just pressing them, yeah.
Yeah,
she's not
just
like
it's from the top row all the way to the bottom.
Yeah, she's not running in and out of the elevator. She's not panicking. She just goes back in, calmly she bends over, starts pressing all the buttons. You know what I mean? But then she goes back out, and then it's almost as if she's talking or conversing with someone.
Yeah, she's gesticulating a lot with her hands, as if she's communicating with somebody maybe just out of shot.
It's kind of like she's told a maintenance worker that the lift's not working, and she's like waiting for him, and they're like down the corridor. It's like she's like, I don't understand why this. I pressed all the buttons. It's not working. I don't know why.
Yeah, and at the same time, you could almost glean from it that there is a slight sense of urgency. Like perhaps she's saying, "Well, I can't wait here forever."
Yeah,
but at the same time, she doesn't look massively distressed.
No.
But then further towards the end of the video, it almost, to me, looks like she's almost pleading. Like her knees sort of bend as if she's like...
Yeah, maybe.
Leaning forward going, please, please, Is anything about that normal?
No, it's kind of weird.
Like, she walks into the elevator...
Like immediately goes to the corner.
From that point on, she presses the buttons first, but she presses all of the buttons and then stands back against the wall and then moves into the corner as if she's waiting for something. And then she kind of looks out as if like she's trying to scare someone.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And there's so many ways you could read what's going on.
Yeah, she seems paranoid. Like she's being followed. Yeah.
But then literally there's no one else in that footage.
That we can see. There's always invisible people, Sean. Can't discount that.
There's always ghosts.
There's always ghosts.
Okay. So, that CCTV footage is what made this whole thing go viral back in 2013. I personally don't remember it, but it did blow up. I don't remember it, so it can't have been that famous. No, it was definitely... like, we could go through a lot of different unsolved things and mysteries and, murders in general, this made it stand out to a lot of people.
And that's
And I think you can
unedited.
see
That's
why.
just the original footage.
That's the footage that the hotel released.
Yeah, just
I wonder
CCTV
if it's
in there.
edited.
I didn't see any cuts
Okay.
or anything like that.
No, but did you say it took till the 11th of February for that to be released, or roughly? Then is that what you said?
I'll get to that in a second.
It's just quite a long delay for them to release what is quite striking footage.
Well, I mean, if it's
but also
missing
don't forget
persons
they've got to
case-
go through a lot of CCTV potentially, because that won't be the only CCTV camera in the building. They will have had to look through every single camera for one entire day in theory, and including the next day.
Agreed, but
So
it's
there's
a
a
missing
lot of
persons
CCTV to go
case.
through. Yeah,
Although I
but
suppose, yeah.
if it's the hotel doing it,
Yeah, but if it's an open case, what good would releasing CCTV footage be to help them solve the case? I can understand them releasing a photo so people can be like, have you seen this person? But
Yeah, I was thinking more of the fact that it shows what clothes she's wearing.
yeah,
If that's the
maybe.
last footage that she's seen, or maybe it's not.
They could just
maybe
release
that's
a
not the
still
very
then
last. Well, yeah, true. Maybe it's not the very last footage of her, but it's the
right? Hang on.
footage that has most relevance to what people think might be going on.
Beg your pardon. I've just double checked. On the 15th of February, after another week with no sign of Lam, the LAPD released a video of the last known sighting of her.
Right.
So they
okay.
had. That's where I've got a bit confused with my timings.
Yeah,
They would have had the CCTV before that.
yeah, and also this video went live on the 22nd of February.
From that source you've given us.
From
Yeah.
from that source, yeah.
Okay, so obviously this went out, still missing. A lot of questions, right? Around about the time that this was released to the public, residents of the hotel started making some complaints about low water pressure, the water tasting funny, and the water coming out black and
Oh my
then
God.
sort of stabilizing.
I have a horrible feeling I know where this is going.
They really need to sort their water supply out. Yeah. No, she was found, obviously dead, in one of the 4 water tanks on the roof.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So low water pressure, all that. Oh,
People drank that water.
People drank that water. They said it tasted funny. There was obviously quite a few different claims that went out. I'm not sure what one either. Actually, no, I'm pretty sure that the hotel actually won because of various reasons. That's
won
not
what?
part of this story. They won the case, like they defended themselves because it wasn't technically their fault, I guess.
Oh, they were getting sued.
They were getting, oh yeah, of course they were, by all the residents. Like everyone staying there at the time was like, hang on, you've got a dead body in the water tank. So the interesting thing, a lot of the sources I've looked up said that this went on for a while, but not many people actually complained about it because they thought it was normal. Like they just
What does
they
that
just
say about
presumed it was
LA?
the area.
To be fair, I was going to say, if the thing to remember is it's a hotel, so presumably people from outside the area are coming. It's a bit like when you go halfway across the country and you try the water there and you go, oh, it tastes a bit funny, or you get even if you get sometimes a bit of like a dicky tummy from it, then you just think, oh, it's
they
just
just presumed
different.
it was a bad plumbing for the area. They just thought it was normal because it would come out black initially, and then it would stabilize and go back to normal looking water.
Oof.
Maybe it tasted amazing.
No, not right. Moving swiftly onwards. So, a little bit of context about the water tanks. So, her body was found in one of the 4 water tanks, which were located closely together on the roof. They were 4 foot wide and 8 foot tall. It's quite big.
Mm-hmm.
There's no fixed access to the tanks. So, I mean, like, no ladders, like permanently placed ladders, no permanently placed stairs, anything like that. Okay? Her room key was found inside with her. She was also found naked with the clothes inside the tank.
What on earth?
So her body was intact. It wasn't like... Because I was picturing her like being sawed up and squished into a water tank, but no, it was,
Okay.
It was intact.
So sorry, her body was found on the 19th of February. So she went missing on the 31st. The police released the video on the 15th, and then on the 19th of February, her body was found in the tank. The coroner report on the 21st of Feb, so 2 days later, concluded that it was accidental drowning.
What?
No evidence of trauma, but there's a bit of speculation around that in that it could have been hidden by water damage. So if her body was in the water for a long period of time, going to our resident medical expert, Stuart, potentially any bruising or anything like that could have been hidden.
Yeah, I guess potentially. I honestly don't know enough about it, but I can just imagine that she bloated.
That's one of the things that I've read. I don't know. That is what they said. Yeah, her body would have bloated. It would have just absorbed a lot of the water. That kind of thing.
Was she wearing lead shoes by any chance?
No.
Okay, it wasn't.
She was
the
naked.
She had concrete bricks on her foot.
The latches on top of each of the 4 water tanks were really heavy lids, and they would have been closed as well. So they would have been really difficult. It wouldn't have just been difficult for her to get on top of the water tanks by herself, to climb up.
Yeah, it's 8 foot
and it would also
tall,
been
right?
really difficult for her to get inside them.
But are they locked?
So apparently, not necessarily locked, but they would have been closed.
Did she also lock them from the outside as she was drowning?
No, it was when. So this is the thing. Once she was found inside it, the lid was found closed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
she couldn't have done that. Right?
She's 100% been put in there, hasn't she?
Definitely.
So, coroner report. Coroner report. Accidental drowning. I will actually send you a screenshot of her death certificate, I believe. It was the medical report from the coroner.
Ooh, interestingly, it says bipolar disorder on it.
Interesting. We will get to that later, because that's potentially quite a big part of it. But she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
So interestingly, for people at home who maybe can't see this, so the medical report lists the cause of death in order of what would kill you. So the immediate cause of death was drowning, and then there was no obvious it being due to a consequence of something else, like alcohol or drugs or anything like that. But it also noted her other medical conditions included that she had bipolar disorder. And then it lists the sort of mode of her death. It says, is it natural, suicide, homicide, accident, or could not be determined? And it has could not be determined as ticked. And then it has it then scribbled out and signed to say in error on the 18th of June 2013. It had been amended to accident. And it said the injury occurred in a water tank.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because we said the death certificate was issued on the 21st of February, and then later down the line, presumably after the investigation,
so initially
they changed it from could
drowning.
not be determined to accident.
Yeah,
that's the reason.
Yeah, so in June they have
4 months later they changed it.
Well, the coroner report, I'm guessing, with the cause of death and stuff like that would have gone out, but then the investigation by the coroner in full would have found accidental. Is my understanding of it, because coroner reports can take a while, like proper investigations. If they deem it necessary.
Yeah, if there's an inquest.
Properly. If there's an inquest or an inquiry. So, any questions just before I move on?
Many.
Yeah,
all of the questions.
Yeah, obviously you might have answered them. Is the water tank under CCTV?
No.
Okay. Is any access to the water tank got CCTV in terms of maybe how you climb up to the roof or anything like
that? None that have been released. The only CCTV footage that's been released is the one you've seen in the elevator.
Fine.
Everything else, to my knowledge. Beg your pardon, the doors to the roof were locked and alarmed.
Okay, so she clearly hacked the door and the alarm system, and then reset it after she went.
She hacked the rudimentary alarm system. Yes.
Yeah, and then she went through the door, and then she reset it all, and then went into the water tank, and then locked it from the outside using her psychic abilities.
Any more questions? Let's move on.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. I'm going to talk about the hotel a little bit because this is quite interesting. a lot of people believe that the hotel is cursed.
Sure,
So it was first built in the 1920s. The first documented suicide was in 1931, and then for years after that, there was multiple suicides.
Well, they had a good 11 years before the first one.
Yeah, it's better than that crappy lighthouse we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they lost all three of their stuff. No. The long-term residents of the hotel that kept coming back every now and then, or people who knew of the hotel, referred to it as the Suicide. So it gained the nickname the Suicide. Also, notably, in 1947, this was rumoured to be the last known location that the Black Dahlia was seen before her murder. In 1964, Pigeon Goldie Osgood, who I believe was a
Pigeon.
A pigeon. No, was a radio presenter. She was found raped, stabbed, and beaten. They did find a culprit, but then he was later acquitted and proven not guilty, so that's still unsolved. Over the 1980s, you may have heard of Richard Ramirez, the serial killer, the Night Stalker.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Which is also currently popular on Netflix. I'm shilling it for them at the moment, but
Stop giving Netflix money.
I know. Over the 1980s,
us.
True. Over the 1980s, he was known to frequent the hotel often and sometimes use it as a hiding place while he went about his killing sprees.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't expect the serial killer to go to the cursed hotel, would you?
Exactly. Nobody suspects the cursed hotel.
No.
1991, Jack Unterweger, he was obsessed with Richard Ramirez. And he seemed to be going around and reenacting a lot of his killings. He also stayed at the Cecil Hotel. So this hotel has a bad reputation. I don't know if... I guarantee you will go to a hotel and they'll have had some kind of big incident. You know, if they've been open for a long time, a lot of different guests, they will have had a death, potentially, but not this many.
Uh-huh.
You know? This has got a massive reputation around it, and I'm guessing that's why they changed it to stay on Main, because they would have had a little bit of the, the glory from like, ooh, well, this is a cursed hotel. You know, they might have played up on it a bit, but then as soon as this happened with Elisa Lam in 2013, I'm guessing there was too much negative press, maybe, and they changed it, or it got bought out, or whatever. But it's still got the Cecil Hotel like printed on the side of the hotel.
I mean, they should have leaned on it, like themed rooms. Is the suicide murder room, and this is the life behind bars room.
This is the last room. Yeah. So the area is quite a bad area of Los Angeles, apparently. It's like Skid Row. It's described by a couple of videos I've seen, a couple of researchers have seen, as like an area you'd be when you're down on your luck. You'd probably be homeless, that kind of thing. So it wasn't a nice area. So that could be attributed to a reason for its bad reputation and why so many things happened, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
But still, it had this reputation. One interesting thing was that the phone was never found, but her Tumblr kept updating after her death.
Okay. I mean, you don't have to have a phone to use Tumblr.
Well, you don't have to have a phone to use Tumblr, admittedly, but her Tumblr did keep updating.
I mean, if someone's got the login details to that, then they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, of course, but how would they get that? Why would they keep updating her Tumblr?
Well, what did they update it with?
It was just her posts carried on.
What, like, today I woke up, had a coffee?
No, not necessarily that. It would just be like the same sort of themes, the same sort of pictures that she sent. I'm going to be honest, it was sort of ruled out later that I think it's the same with YouTube. You can queue up posts.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was ruled out that she had...
Same on Twitter as well.
Yeah, so she had queued up a load of posts. That's what it was ruled out as. Like, it is scary to think, hang on, her phone was never found, which it genuinely wasn't. But then, in the same vein, to counteract that, she had a blog that she regularly posted on called Ether Fields.
Okay.
And one of the posts in there was that she went to a speakeasy and she had lost her phone.
Right.
So chances are her phone was never found, which was a massive deal in this case. but it was probably because of she just literally lost it before she went missing.
Yeah.
And all the other posts and stuff that she was making, not just from Tumblr, but she updated the blog. Maybe she used a laptop. Maybe she used an internet cafe or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Another interesting thing is that after she was found dead, her body was tested for a drug called Lam Elisa.
No, it wasn't.
What?
Spelt LAM-ELISA, which is her name, but reversed.
Wait, what? No, you're lying to me.
During the autopsy, her body, she was tested, drug tested for Lam Elisa.
And what is Lam Elisa?
So, this caused a lot of controversy because massive conspiracy theory thinking that the government was in on it. But it sounds too exact to be a coincidence, right? It's a drug that was being studied near the area for tuberculosis, for curing tuberculosis in HIV positive patients. So the LAM side of it means lipoarabinomannan. I don't know what that means. And ELISA stands for enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay. Immunosorbent assay.
Is this a chicken or the egg situation?
Which came first, Elisa or the lamb? Oh wait, hang on.
Well, no, I know what Alex means. Did they name it after her?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Was this drug a thing before this case, and then after the case, they named it after her?
No. No.
Or were her parents just really into this drug?
Well, she wasn't with her parents, though, was she?
She wasn't with her parents.
No, when she was born, she was, though.
Well, when she was born, okay, yeah. I think it's coincidence, but is it? Because
so
in
weird.
the area they were testing this drug, she dies and then gets tested for it just to see if she had been taking it or whatever, because it was in the area.
Just because her name is the same as it.
Well,
That's too weird. No.
It's literally the same as it, but reversed.
I know.
Because there was a
the hell's going on?
tuberculosis outbreak in the area. That's why she got tested. I haven't put that in my theory section, just because I think it was ruled out because a lot of people clocked onto it quite quick, but then it was quickly ruled out as well, no, this is literally just coincidence. But again, was it?
What? It can't
It's
be.
very, very specific.
How many
it's
people
so-
on Earth are named after a drug?
Yeah, interestingly, so ELISA is a testing method. So was it called LAM already, or was it three drugs that were called something M, or something L, or whatever it was, and then they've put it like that in the aftermath and using the hype?
I don't know.
This is my daughter, penicillin ibuprofen.
So obviously she was named separately, and then this was just it's. I had to mention it because it's too much of a.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Is it a coincidence?
No, it can't be.
When I was writing it down, I was like, "Oh, I'm not going to put it in the theory section." But now, the more I'm literally verbalizing it, I'm like, "Hang on, this is insane."
Fucking weird.
It's got to be
Is
something.
this like
to
a
do with it.
typhoid Mary? Like she was the one person immune to the drug.
Oh no! There was no proof that she was immune to tuberculosis or anything. Don't forget, this is the drug that was trying to treat tuberculosis.
Yeah, but she was immune to the drug, so that they couldn't get rid of the TB.
Oh, is that Typhoid Mary's story? Is it?
No, she was immune
to typhoid.
Typhoid.
Right. Okay. Maybe.
Back in day.
Anyway,
Anyway,
it's bizarre.
any questions before I move on to theories?
So many.
So one of the things that we've not touched on, and obviously it might come into the theories. So we said that. So she goes to this hotel on the 25th, calls her parents every day. 26th, sorry. Calls her parents every day. Doesn't call her parents on the last night. Parents get worried, ring the police, missing persons investigation. 4 weeks later, body found in the water. No obvious cause of death.
More like 3 weeks.
3 weeks later, sorry, okay. Body found in the water, cause of death determined as drowning. It's basically the summary, isn't
Accidental drowning.
Accidental drowning, okay.
Yeah, well, the big thing is that CCTV footage as well.
Did you say at the start why she went to LA? Was she just on holiday?
Yeah. It was a break.
On her own?
Yeah.
It's a bit weird to go that far away on your own.
So she went to the University of British Columbia, which is in Canada.
It is.
Vancouver. That's where she was born.
Yeah. But LA's the other side of the country. Not even in the same country.
Not yet.
Other side of the continent. I mean, all I'm saying is it's weird to go on holiday that far away on your own.
Right, okay, so she was just travelling. I went on
a gap
holiday
year?
to Japan by myself. She might have been on a gap year, I'm not sure. But she just went on holiday by herself.
Yeah, okay.
She was scheduled... The day she was scheduled to check out and leave for Santa Cruz, her parents did not hear from her and then contacted the LAPD.
And like how you described it, like it would be a weird place to go in LA.
But it would be a cheap place to go to in LA.
Yeah, but you'd think you'd go to a more touristy spot.
Well, maybe she was interested in murders.
Maybe.
She's so interested in
Maybe
murder
she
that
was
she
a true
plots her
crime
own murder.
Oh, she was a private investigator. She was investigating the curse of the hotel.
No way. Okay.
The
Like
hotel ate
Scooby-Doo.
her.
And then she pulled the mask off the hotel. And it was Lam Elisa all along.
Okay.
Can someone draw that for me? I'll make it the thumbnail. I have no art skills, so someone else can do it for me. Okay, continue.
Okay, theories, please,
Yeah,
Sean,
well-
please.
I've successfully
just do
derailed enough.
Because I think some of the we'll go into some of the theories because it'll answer some of the questions, I reckon. So, first theory, I'm going to get it out of the way. Supernatural. Was it ghosts?
Yes.
Specifically, people think, because obviously the hotel was cursed, that it could have been the ghost of Richard Ramirez.
He had to get one more
Who-
murder in.
He had to get one more murder in, exactly.
He was chomping
Or
at
did
the
he
bit.
ever really die?
Can
I'm pretty
can
sure
he
did.
die? He's transcended beyond human mortal planes.
Right, that CCTV footage is weird.
It is.
It looks like she could be talking to something invisible or someone invisible.
Or someone just right outside the lift to the right.
Yeah, but I'm not disagreeing with that. But there's no footage to say there was anywhere around either.
Yeah.
So you don't see any shadows, you don't see any movement apart from her.
Mhm.
Yeah, so what do we think? Ghosts?
It's always a possibility.
It's always a possibility.
Yeah, the annoying thing about that is that you can never rule it out.
No, there's just as much evidence for ghosts than there isn't evidence for ghosts.
But I was going to say there's no evidence for ghosts.
Exactly.
But then there's no evidence for ghosts.
Exactly.
Okay,
That's my point.
fair point. Right, the next theory
Aliens.
is... The big one is that she was murdered.
The way you said murdered then, or like in my head I went, oh my god.
It's been a murder. I didn't say murder. I
You did. Should we get a clean take of that?
Oh, sorry.
You can put that after the credits.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right, the big theory then is that she was murdered.
And the obvious theory.
It fits quite well. I mean, the CCTV footage shows... So, let's say you just can't see who she's speaking to. It looks weird. It looks like she is hiding. It looks like she's talking to someone. It looks like she's pleading with someone. It starts off like looking like it's a game almost because of the way she kind of like looks out and tries to scare the person or like looks to see if there's anyone there as if she is scared, which is also what leads me to think, oh, well, ghost, is she like feeling something, a presence? I don't believe in ghosts at all, but the way that it's sort of seen, I was going to say the way it's filmed, it wasn't staged, but
Oh, that would be a twist.
that would be a twist. So
She faked her own
way
death.
the way that you watch it, it kind of feels that way. But in terms of the murder, it's definitely possible. It lines up way more with the fact that it would have been so difficult for her to be able to get into the water tanks herself, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Even if she was able to get up there by herself, how did she close the lid?
I mean, gravity? Could it close itself?
That's what I was about to say. Yeah, if we're saying that it's really heavy, I know it's maybe pushing it, but could it be as simple as the force of the wind blowing be enough to push it shut under its own weight? Like, is it literally just open?
So, to my knowledge, looking at pictures, I don't think they were hinged.
Ah, okay. So in
Oh,
my
so you
head,
take the
I
whole
imagine
thing
it like
off.
it's a hatch.
More like a hatch.
I was picturing it like a wheelie bin lid that like
Yeah, probably because I said
folds
lid.
itself. Yeah.
But I guess they are more like a hatch, so they'd be able to open all the way. I think they were hinged. Sorry, looking at the pictures. Let's have a look at that. Hang on, let's do a little bit.
Let's do some water tower research on the spot. It looks like there's a small hatch in it.
Yeah.
So that hatch to me doesn't look like it. Well, that hatch to me though doesn't look like it should be difficult to lift up. There's a particular photo that I'm looking at here, which is of a firefighter with his arm in a hatch, and it looks like a girl who particularly looks fairly petite would easily fit in the hole there.
Yeah, and then just drop
You could get in. You could get
on.
in. And it does look like they... Right, okay. So don't forget, when she's lowering herself in, there's a chance that she'd be able to close the lid. But once she's in there, it depends on how high the water is, I guess. I don't know how high up the water was, because that would have changed over, regularly, I'm guessing, right? So if she dropped in and then couldn't reach the lid, that would have stayed open. It would have been very difficult for her. If she did it at night as well, I don't know. So let's say the lid was open, and it's open all the way, which I can see now that it is. They are lids; they can fully be open, so they are hinged.
Yeah, it's not the whole top like I was picturing. It's it's a square cutout on the top.
It's a small hatch bit, yeah. So she's lowering herself in. There's a chance that she could close it while she's dropping in.
Yeah.
Would she have the upper body strength to do that?
One of the things that I'm wondering is, could she have opened the hatch herself? Could she have got into the water tank? Could she have got stuck, drowned, be dead, and then somebody else has come along and gone, oh, that's not meant to be open, not really thought all that much of it, and just tipped it shut and carried on as if nothing else has ever happened?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you would think that would come up in the police investigation. But at the same time, if there's no CCTV evidence of the water tank, you can't prove or disprove that either way. And if you're the person that just happens to have closed that tank and you see a police report saying, we're looking for somebody who might have closed the tank on a body, without any proof, there's no way that you're going to volunteer yourself for that, because you're just going to be suspect number one. You're going to be
God, there's some guilt.
Accused.
You could be like, oh, was she still alive when I closed?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Ugh, makes me shiver thinking of it.
Yeah.
Like, it can't be accidental, because why would you get in the water tank?
Why would you get in it? That's what makes, even if she was losing her head a bit, to be able to go up to the roof, get past all the alarms and stuff, and then choose to get into the water tank with all that effort. You can see how difficult it is to get up there, right?
Uh-huh. And, even if you want to commit suicide, what a weird way to do it.
But then, also, she was found in there, don't forget, naked. The clothes were in there. So did she get naked, throw the clothes in, then get in? Or did she take all the clothes off while she was in the tank?
Kind of like, I'm trying to think it through. I'm trying to think. So looking at these pictures, so you've got somebody who's acting a little bit paranoid, maybe a little bit distressed, who's got in this lift, who at first looks like they fairly innocently are playing like an elevator game or whatever with the numbers. And then that was the last time that she'd been seen on CCTV. Obviously, there's been some sort of interval time period between that footage and her ending up in the water tank. But if we made the assumption that somebody else is there and she is actually interacting with maybe somebody down the corridor and it's all fun and games, the way that she hides up against the wall inside the lift, what happens if this is like hide and seek gone wrong?
How old is this person?
Yeah. 21.
23, did you say? 21? Sorry? 21.
Yeah, 21 at the time of death.
But, you don't know whether or not it's just a case, has she just made a friend and they're just literally just messing around?
I'll hide in the water tank on the roof. Come find me.
Well, maybe I'll hide on the roof and then, oh, that's a good spot, and then misadventure. But again, it doesn't explain the fact that she's completely, obviously, naked.
She was really hot in the water tank. So she took
Well,
all
this
her
was in
clothes off.
January, wasn't it? So it's probably not going to be that
It's
hot.
LA. They don't have seasons in LA. It's summer all year round.
So here's a couple of counter arguments just before we go any further. So there was a guy who actually took it upon himself. He stays at the Cecil Hotel and filmed himself getting up to the roof to kind of further the investigation, to say, hang on, how difficult really is it to get up there?
Yeah.
He was able, through the fire escape, to be able to get up onto the roof. The doors weren't alarmed,
Okay.
as they said they were.
So you're lying to me.
I was lying to you.
Son of a bitch.
It's been known on this podcast. Next to where the 4 water tanks are, there is a building, like a small. I don't know how you describe it.
It's where the stairwell would be.
It's where the stairwell would be, I guess. Yeah. So this video shows the guy. He's walking along the building. He's able to climb up. He's able to get up there. He finds the water tanks. Notices this building right next to it. This building has stairs leading up to the 2nd floor of it, but also a ladder. He climbs the ladder, which there's no way stopping him from getting up the ladder. He gets on top of that building, and you could jump down onto the water tanks.
Yeah. Or fall.
Right? So all these reports that were coming out, like, oh, this is there's no way she could have got in. You could jump or fall off that ceiling onto the top of one of the 4 water tanks and then hop onto. I think she was found, looking at that picture, she was found on the top left, in the top left one.
Okay.
I believe. So she could have jumped off that roof down onto it.
But why?
But why is the next question. Why?
Like,
Even if
she
that is the case,
fell off it accidentally, the lid wouldn't have been open, I don't think. So she would have had to fall off, land on it, get up. Oh, I'll take the lid off this and then get inside it. I don't understand what is happening in this story. It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. But maybe it will in the next theory. Right, so there's 2 sides of this theory. But both are that she did it herself, right?
Yep.
One side of it is drugs. So hallucinogens, maybe she'd taken something, right? Because you look at the CCTV, it would explain a lot that she was on something.
A lot of meth.
A lot of meth, not even once. Another thing to support this is that originally when she first got there, she was staying in a hostel with a couple of other guests, right?
Mm-hmm.
After a couple of days, she was actually moved to her own room because others were claiming, complaining about her odd behaviour, quote unquote.
She kept trying to sell them meth, and they were sick of it.
This, however, is in contrast to what the woman at the bookstore said, saying that she was very, whatever normal means, like she was very talkative. There was nothing out of the ordinary about her.
Just there to buy a book.
Hotel staff said the same thing. The ones who've interacted with her, they had no reason to believe that there was something wrong. Her family, she rang her family every day.
Mm-hmm.
They had no reason to believe that. So why she was moved out of the hostel room into her own room, who knows? But maybe she was taking something every night.
Yeah. I mean, drugs
but also there was no, in the toxicology report, there was no acute drug or alcohol intoxication.
How long? It was a while after.
I was just going to say that, yeah. I wonder how reliable that all those tests are that far down the line.
Mm-hmm. So, the other side of that theory that she did it herself is just intentional suicide. You touched on it before. She was
it's a weird way to commit suicide, though.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be able to get out once you were in.
But at the same time, why didn't she just jump off the side of the building?
Yeah.
Which is what many of the previous suicides have been. They just jumped out of windows or whatever. I'm not saying that maybe she wanted to change the trend or something. I don't mean that, but it's a good question. Like, why did she use the water tanks? Why did she choose to go up to the roof? So, in terms of the suicide side of it, she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression, and she was on medication for this. She had previously made no attempts to commit suicide, according to her family. and she had plans to go home. Like, the way she was talking about it, she was planning on what book she was going to read. She was talking to her family. She was buying gifts for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all of that doesn't stereotypically line up to someone who's contemplating suicide.
No, not at all.
At least planning it. The characteristic that usually, if someone's contemplating it, they'll start selling all their stuff. They'll sell all their affairs, won't they?
They'll like shut down. They won't even bother probably phoning the family and talking to them or anything like that.
Yeah, it could have been impulsive. One of the things I mentioned before was her blog, Ether Fields. She very well documented her mental health in terms of talking about it, being open about it, and that a couple of months before this happened, she'd had like a relapse. Didn't really go into detail on it from what I read. She openly talked about her depression.
Yeah.
Basically. So she was on. I'm going to send Stu, both of you, a picture, a screenshot I got of her medication that she was on. Let me know if you recognize any of that. And apparently, she was on a lot of stuff, or she was at least prescribed a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So, venlafaxine, the top one, is an antidepressant. I don't know what Wellbutrin it is. There'll be brand names.
Yeah, the problem with this will be American brands, so...
Yeah, lamotrigine is an anti-epilepsy medicine, but can be used for some psychiatric conditions. Quetiapine's an antipsychotic.
Yep.
I don't know the others.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that either. That's why I sent it you. But basically, she was on a couple of different medications for her antidepressants, obviously, but in particular her bipolar disorder. The autopsy declared that she had only taken, when I say only taken, she hadn't taken any other medication. She'd only taken her prescribed stimulants, but she had not taken either of her stabilizers.
Most of the mood stablers in bipolar are designed to prevent mania, which is the hyperactive state of bipolar. Often during that period, which can come on fairly quickly, people experience psychotic symptoms. So it might explain some of her
she
behaviour.
Committed suicide through a manic episode. Her family, everything came to the conclusion she would have had no reason to commit suicide apart from if she was having a manic episode. And it would explain a lot, in theory. It would explain the CCTV footage if she was having a manic episode, of my understanding of it anyway. The fact that she thought it was a good idea to get onto the roof and then get into the water tank. Like, it doesn't make any sense to us, but it wouldn't if she's not thinking clearly anyway.
Yeah, I suppose if you go down the state that she's not thinking rationally, then those things might be reasonable in her mental state.
Maybe she literally looked at it and thought, ooh, I'm feeling warm, I'm going to have a dip.
Well, yeah, but she'd have had to open the lid of the tank, wouldn't she? Granted that you can't apply completely rational logic if we're making the assumption that she was having a manic episode. You'd have to open the tank, realise there's water in it, maybe take off all your clothes, throw them in, and then jump in yourself. And then somehow the lid gets shut behind.
That's the thing about it being, closed behind, isn't it?
She was killed.
So...
there was no way she was killed, come on.
It's hard
Someone
to, it's really
locked
hard
her
to
in
look
there.
past. It's really hard to look past that. I definitely agree. The thing that I am struggling with is approach it from a slightly different viewpoint for a second and say she is goofing around. So we said that she takes pictures on her Tumblr. Has she gone to the roof to take some pictures of the skyline? And there's been some sort of misadventure.
She had... This is another thing of why she might have been on the roof. On her blog and Tumblr, she did used to take skyline or city skyline photos. So maybe the interest of that would have been why she went onto the roof. Because she did
any of the pictures that were scheduled to be uploaded, could any of those be taken from the roof, do you know? Were they of, adjacent buildings or anything like that to prove that she was up there?
I don't remember any of that coming up when that was mentioned across the different things that I saw. there was nothing to say that a photo was taken from the roof.
And her phone was never found?
Her phone was never found either.
Was one, like, quite dark and a bit soggy?
Oh.
I find it bizarre that her phone was never found. That sounds suspicious to me. Like, 2013
it does sound suspicious, Stuart.
2013's not that long ago. We're thinking of somebody who can maybe has enough money to go on a tourist run and be able to contact her family in a different country every night. Probably has a reasonable phone.
No. The family was, well, okay, Canada, but still not the same country. I know it's not the same country as America, but it's not like it's the other side of the world, like China.
No. Agreed. I'm thinking more the fact that I don't know exactly how it works, but like if you're using a phone that is roaming as well, like you've got to have the ability to contact your family. I take it we've had no mention that she's used the hotel phone to speak to her family. So if they're like FaceTiming, you could forget like all of the ones that we've done in the past have all been like the way before phone technology. But in 2013, you got quite easily have FaceTimed somebody. Like the phone being completely gone would have had like a GPS tracker in it. You might have had to find my iPhone. If
it was an iPhone, find my iPhone. Yeah.
Yeah, like the absence of the phone is really bizarre. And like thinking how much data that is on people's phone, you could quite easily work out who this person was.
So let's say because according to her blog, she lost her phone. If she lost her phone, surely someone would have handed it in. I mean, obviously not 100%. They might have kept the phone. But
I was going to say it's in a poor part of LA. Maybe
not to have come up.
Yeah.
Or maybe they knew how to wipe it.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Maybe iPhones are much harder to get into, but if it was another type of phone, maybe she didn't have locks on it.
Yeah, maybe it's been pawned for money in a poor area of LA.
And then they would have kept it quiet because they would have been prime suspects if they were found with the phone.
Yeah.
They might have never known that it was Elisa Lam. They might have just literally found a phone on the floor, gone, hell yeah, like you said, pawned it off. That is my personal theory behind it. She lost it, someone found it, and just kept it or sold it. And it's as simple as that. But the other side of it is that if it is a murder, then it was taken and hidden. Because you could take the SIM card out of the phone and stop it from being tracked, right?
Did she say when she lost the phone? Because she was phoning her parents, wasn't she? Until a few days before she went missing.
So on January 27th, 2013, Elisa made a post to her Tumblr blog stating she had lost a cell phone. So one day after she checked in, which is before she went missing.
So then supposedly there was a few days of her calling her parents without having a mobile phone.
Yeah.
Here you go. This is going to creep you out.
Oh, great.
Scroll down to the 27th of January.
This is her blog, I think, yeah.
This is her blog, yeah. Which says, "The speakeasy was awesome, except I lost a cell phone. Sigh. And it's not even mine. Hashtag, and it's not even mine, it's my friend's old BlackBerry that he's lending to me, and well, not that he wants it, he doesn't want it anymore, but stupid, Cali blah." These are all hashtags that have been, or rather tags that were tagged onto it. So it's a BlackBerry. There you go. So it's an old BlackBerry, so it wouldn't have had by my iPhone. And it's a friend's, so you wouldn't have been able to track it to her. But look how many posts there are after that.
Yeah.
She's queued them up
so
for
this
ages.
This is what people were finding weird because activity didn't stop. Obviously, later on it did. But you look at February, that takes a lot of scrolling to get through.
Yeah.
All the way up to February 27th. Actually, it stopped consistently on the 16th or the 18th, which is actually, that's scary because she was found dead on the 19th. And then the frequency stops. Man, I don't like it. Like, obviously, it's a queued up thing, but
there's no way you queue this many things up.
Well, you could, if you have the ideas, and there's a couple of posts in a day. So,
ooh, January the 27th. I really hope no creeper comes near me.
Yes.
Oh, I bet you someone's followed her, and she was murdered and stuffed into a water tank.
Do you have any more theories?
Yeah, two little ones. Well, one little one and another big one. One thing that people pointed out is that in the elevator, when she's pressing the buttons, there's apparently a Korean elevator game.
Okay.
Which was like a big trend that happened where basically you press buttons on a lift in a specific order and it helps you teleport to a different dimension. So
And she
the idea
succeeded?
being that she's, well, depends what you count by.
Is it a
different
water
I guess,
dimension by any chance?
I don't know. All I know is that the link is the premise being that she would have been doing this because apparently it was popular before this happened in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
It was a popular game that is played in Korea, and she was basically reenacting part of it. If she was hallucinating, maybe she did it subconsciously because she's done it when she was a kid or whatever.
Was that game one that was usually played with other people? As in, could there have been two lifts next to each other where she's messing around and every time she pops her head out, it's because her mate's popped her head out?
Potentially, yeah.
So, just thinking about it, the way that she presses the buttons, are any of them, this is going to sound really stupid, are any of them to keep the door open?
Well, I thought that, but even then, you might, to be fair, get elevators that you press the hold open and you don't need to hold the button. But every elevator I've been in where it's holding the door open, you've had to hold the door down. Hold the button down to keep the door open. As soon as you take your finger off, if there's another floor highlighted for it to go to, you take your finger off, it'll immediately close the doors. But that's the elevators I've seen.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't mean that... It makes sense that you wouldn't have a button like that, because if you're messing around, you could walk in, press the button, leave it open, and then no one else can get in from other floors.
True,
so
but
it makes sense that...
But maybe the argument to that might be it holds it open for a defined period of time. So maybe it holds it for 60 seconds and it allows the staff to get in trolleys that have got new bedding and cleaning products and bits and bobs. Like the bellboys take in luggage and things, perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't really like the idea that we just say it's her mental health, she's having a psychotic episode, and that's exactly why she's died. It doesn't fit for me with any of how she's died. I don't think it explains.
She could have had
how she got in
a manic
home.
episode, and she wasn't taking a medication properly according to the autopsy. But I know what you mean. Even then, how do you explain where, why, how?
Particularly about the whole fact that she was moved from one room to another. Perhaps it was her taking her antipsychotic medicine, and people were like, "Oh, what are you doing? You're accusing her of doing drugs when actually she wasn't doing
popping all those pills.
Illegal drugs."
Good point, isn't it? Some antipsychotic medication is an injection.
None of those
it is.
They're all capsules and pills.
Oh, it does actually.
Yeah.
To be fair, I've just looked back over it. It does say capsules and pills.
But if she's popping tablets to keep herself sane, and then people have picked up a complaint to say we think she's doing pills rather than medicine, that might explain why she was moved to a room of her own.
Yeah.
And then maybe the reaction of losing the people that she had kind of got to know over the last few days has made her like almost lonely, maybe, and then she plays that game on her own, but she stumbles across somebody who is dodgy. The problem is we don't have any perpetrator sort of stuff, do we? I know obviously we talked about what's he called? The serial killer. The
Night Stalker.
The Night Stalker, sorry, thank you, yeah. But we were saying that the killings that he did were way, way before. Is that
1980s?
So, like, to blame it on a serial killer who's committed crimes potentially in that same hotel before, but 3 decades earlier.
So that's the ghost.
Yeah.
They were blaming it on.
I mean, if she's been killed, it's probably a one-off. Like, not a serial killer. Like, this is a one-off.
Shall I go on to my last theory?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, go on.
So there's a theory, you kind of touched on it before. What if the CCTV was altered?
I mean,
prior to the release to the police
have to gain
by the hotel. So what if it's someone from the hotel?
Okay, so she stumbled upon the conspiracy of the hotel and why it's cursed, and they silenced her.
Right, motive, I don't know here. because I've kind of added in that maybe it was the staff, a staff member that's murdered her. Because the big theory is that the CCTV was altered. There's a lot of people who question its integrity, and the police released it, and it's allegedly from the hotel, but maybe the hotel was lying. Maybe the hotel edited it. Because of how weird it is, it would make sense that someone else was cut out from it. But then, if it is edited, you've seen it yourself. Watch it back in your own time. If it's edited, it's been done really well.
Yeah, the only thing that you see on it, there's a slight bit of like film grain.
Yes. And people clock onto that as well, because when she's sort of hiding in the corner at the start, there's a split, like a line that goes across like her mouth, as in it goes across the whole screen, but it goes across her mouth, sort of thing, and then she moves out as if she thinks something's there, right? So there is, what's the right word? Like impurities with the film. It's not perfect.
Well, yeah, because it's low quality CCTV footage.
It's low quality CCTV footage, exactly. So, the belief is that she was definitely there, but the CCTV was edited. Why? What's the motive? Maybe the hotel was trying to cover something up.
But like, wouldn't the hotel
which would make sense?
Decide to?
Which would make sense with knowing that the water tanks were on the roof. If the doors were alarmed, because when that guy went up, they just might not have been alarmed, which is like a bit of a cop out. But they might not have been alarmed. He might have known where to get a ladder from.
But like, I don't understand why the hotel would go through so much effort to cover for an employee.
Or maybe it was the guy who did the CCTV, and he knew that he could cover it. That is me speculating on that respect. But the theory is that the CCTV's been tampered with. I'm expanding on that and giving mine, because for me, the CCTV being altered and the staff member who altered it was the one who did it, that lines up in my head.
I don't know.
The one thing forgive me if I'm wrong, did you comment on who actually found her?
Oh, yeah.
Was it just a maintenance worker?
I believe so.
Because I would presume the chain of events would go Manky Water, somebody who is a water mechanic goes, oh, Manky Water, it'll be the tank, goes to the tank and goes, holy shit, there's a body. Like, in my head, I'm imagining a body that's floating on the top of the water, bobbing, that's putrefied. And
so in theory, it would be professionals. They might, regularly pay to, contractors to come in and fix the water supply. I'm guessing that. I'm having a look now, and it just says that her body was drowned. Body was found. Sorry.
It was drowned, though.
Well, it still stands.
It was drowned and then found.
So the tank was drained and cut open since its maintenance hatch was too small to accommodate equipment needed to remove the body.
Okay. Yeah, is it reasonable to infer that they've opened the hatch and gone, oh my god.
This is a horrible story.
It's horrible.
This might be the worst story we've done on this podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Sean.
As in, like, content-wise, not as in... Let me rephrase that.
We keep raising and lowering the bars. One last thing that I want to add as like a counter thing to a lot of this. There's speculation around how her body was found. So we were going on just then about who found the body, right? There's speculation on it because particularly in terms of the hatch being open. So when the body was found, it was reported to have been closed, right? Mm-hmm. That might not necessarily have been true because they were meant to be closed. They were meant to be kept closed. So the hotel, in theory, would go, no, they were closed.
Yeah, maybe they just didn't ask and they just assumed it was closed because that's the default.
I think no. It was declared that it was closed because that's quite a big thing.
That'll just be testimony, though, won't it? That'll be the guy that found it saying it was closed when I got there.
But also, if he works for the hotel, he wouldn't want it to be clear that. I don't know what I'm trying to get at, but basically, the guy who I mentioned who went up there himself and filmed himself getting up there, right? When he got to that top of that building that was above the water tanks, like literally right next to it, but above it, 2 of them were open.
Oh.
So even the hotel saying that they're always meant to be closed, they weren't necessarily. And there was a ladder. If you look at the video as he's going up, there's literally a ladder there.
Yeah, but let's say they were open and she accidentally fell in. What would stop her from getting out?
No footholds or handholds while she's inside.
If the water level's low. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
If the water level was too low, she wouldn't be able to get out. But maybe it was just high enough for her not to be able to touch the floor with her feet, because it was 8 foot tall. But then even if it's 8 foot tall and the water level's 7 foot high, and the lid's closed, or even if it's open, it's going to be really hard to swim and jump out of the water a foot. Just speculating.
Like a dolphin jump.
Yeah, like you could argue that you could swim right to the bottom and then push up. But even then, you'd lose so much momentum, and then once you break the surface of the water, I find it difficult to believe that she'd be able to float and simultaneously reach up.
She
to
took her
grab
clothes
It'd be
off
really hard
to make herself more streamlined, to make the jump easier.
Ah.
Hydrodynamics.
Or to stop her being weighed down so that she could swim.
I don't. Oh, with the heavy clothes, yeah. Because even light clothing, when it's wet, will be made heavier. That's interesting.
Science.
Science.
This story is so weird, and I don't know what to think about it. Because I'm still thinking, there's no way she accidentally fell in and drowned. Like, the amount of things which have to happen for that chain of events to happen is just it's so weird. But, like, there was no sign of, like, injuries on the body for her to be murdered. But, I mean, you don't really have to, because they could just chuck her in there and lock it, and then...
Oh, I was going to say that. If her cause of death was drowning, so usually I think they get to a cause of death by drowning is where if you're dead when you're thrown into a pool of water, your muscles of your airway are already closed off, which stops your lungs from filling with water.
Ah, right.
If you are alive and you drown, your last breaths as you gasp for air, you inhale water and there's water in your lungs.
There we go.
So if there was water in her lungs, they would be able to say that she drowned trying to swim. And the fact that they've said she accidentally drowned makes me assume that she has water in her lungs, which would suggest that she was alive when she was thrown in there, or alive when she entered the water.
Mm-hmm.
So if she was murdered, somebody put her in there alive and let her drown.
Lovely.
Oh, to be clear as well, one thing I didn't mention is that the clothing that was found when they found the body was very, very similar to what she was wearing in the elevator. So she was wearing the same clothing. Just because I forgot to mention that. I was looking at my notes.
Yep.
If that matters, I don't want to leave out information. Because I think it does kind of matter, because you could say, like, well, maybe they took the CCTV from another day.
I was going to say, yeah, it just allows you to reasonably infer that she was she died soon after the footage of her in the elevator.
It gives a sort of timeline, doesn't it?
Mm.
So one thing I've just read, which I think is interesting, is, and I think it does line up with, because this bit that I'm on about, it mentions the autopsy and the ambivalence of the pathologists. So it also records subcutaneous pooling of blood in Lam's anal area, which some observers suggest was a sign of sexual abuse. However, one pathologist has noticed it could also have resulted from bloating in the course of the body's decomposition, and her rectum was also prolapsed. Even the coroner's pathologists appear to be ambivalent about their conclusion that Lam's death was accidental. So although it was changed to accidental, they weren't 100% certain.
Yeah, I think pretty much we're drawing the same conclusions that it seems like you can infer from
the different sources that I looked at. And funnily enough, I'm looking at Wikipedia now, which seems to have more information than anywhere else. So maybe I should just go straight to Wikipedia for this sort of thing.
No, you're not allowed. It's illegal.
Nowhere else has mentioned the potential sexual abuse, because it's not recorded on the autopsy report.
Yeah, I mean, that's a motive if she's murdered, right? Get some raping in there first.
Yeah, it would make more motive. Yeah,
To kidnap her to start with.
it would line up more to some kind of sexual abuse or rape. Yeah,
And if she's
then
like
hiding
having
the
some
body.
mental issues at the time, maybe it makes it easier
Yeah,
to
she's got that
get her to go
vulnerability.
somewhere with someone or to capture her.
Hmm. Or if she's in the middle of a manic episode as well. Maybe it's a couple of things that also add up, because the autopsy report does say that she wasn't taking her stabilizers. So for how long? Obviously, I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, Stuart, but these sort of medications would build up over time to reach a level. You don't just take it and then you're fine. So missing it for one day might not necessarily have that kind of effect.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Or would it have?
Obviously, I
such a
don't know what
big-
some of the medicines are.
If she
but-
didn't take her
I think it
stabilizers
depends
one
how
day,
long
you
you've
know.
been taking it.
Hmm.
Your body will
But it
get
sounds
a
like she's been
tolerance to
taking it
won't
for
over
years.
time, so missing one day won't affect it as much as if you've just started and you miss a day.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it wasn't just one day. Maybe she forgot to take them while she was on holiday.
But then you'd think her parents would have noticed
Maybe
the
it
change
could be as
in
simple as that.
mannerisms and
Well,
behaviour
yeah.
and things.
No one noticed the difference. There's so many counter arguments to each bit.
Mm.
Because you could say either drugs or suicide, her having her own part in it, and there's good reasoning or evidence to support that. But then, I mean, this is why it's an unsolved mystery.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So I think we've got enough information now to make an informed decision.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say I have no idea, and I just lied. I can't make an informed decision.
Well, your informed decision is that you have no clue
Yes.
what's going on.
Just like the pathologists. I have
I
no
think that's
idea what
fair.
happened. I mean, it can't be suicide, right? And
So, is it completely impossible that even without having a manic episode and she actually chose to take her own life, is it completely impossible for her to have done it?
no, but it's
In this way.
weird.
That's what makes it hard to talk about. That's what makes it hard to try and deduce.
I lean towards murder because it's just so weird, to accidentally fall in there and then get stuck. So many specific things have to happen in order for it to be an accidental drowning.
Yeah, I was going to say the same as Alex, actually. Whilst I don't think there is enough information for us to be able to say convincingly, oh, she was murdered. I think if you say which ones it's not, I don't think she would have done this herself, because it sounds really difficult to have done it yourself, and also it doesn't really add up. Taking all your clothes off and getting in a water tank and then drowning and this, that and the other. There would have been easier ways to probably end your own life if you were feeling suicidal on the top of a roof. It doesn't sound like it was misadventure from messing around taking pictures. You would expect that if she was up there with the intention of taking pictures for her blog or a Tumblr or whatever, that you'd expect to find her phone up there. So I think it leaves you with the obviously uncertainty, but the circumstances around the way that she was behaving suspiciously in a slightly unusual pattern, and then the nature of how her body was disposed of and the route that she died in definitely makes me think there had to be a second individual involved. Whether that's somebody facilitating suicide or whether or not that's a murderer, I don't think I can comment, but that's the way that I would go to it, which is that this had a deliberate intent, but I don't know if it was intent for suicide or intent to facilitate suicide or intent to murder.
Mm-hmm.
I've never drowned, but I'd say that drowning
I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, I'd say it's a pretty bad way to go, right?
It's reportedly the worst way to die.
You wouldn't choose to drown yourself when you could jump off a building.
Again, I'm leaning towards the manic episode thing.
So you think she did it herself?
I think the word you said, misadventure, from what I understand that to mean, is that it's just
it's accident.
you've made a mistake when travelling or doing something, right?
Yeah.
But I take that in the sense of adventure that's gone wrong as well.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
She literally just was curious and went, you know what, I'm going to have a look inside. So she managed to get up onto the roof and then got up in there. I do not believe that she slipped, fell, ended up inside. You know what I mean? I don't think it was an accident in terms of her getting in, but maybe she thought that once she was in, she'd be able to get out.
Yeah, I mean, from taking that viewpoint of saying that maybe she was having a manic episode, certainly manic people have disinhibited behaviour. They will do things that sound ridiculous but are completely normal to them. It's impossible for us to comment on it because at the time of speaking, presumably we're all of sound mind, so we just cannot have that viewpoint. So like when your thought process has become so irrational, what is normal to them would be completely ludicrous to us.
Yeah.
I think maybe that does sound like it reasonably ties in.
Yeah, I think we kind of covered it a bit on the Yuba County 5, where if they were losing their heads, would they be thinking straight?
Yeah, but those people were dying.
Can we put ourselves in their body? They will.
Like, they were slowly
dying. They also
dying.
had learning difficulties as well. So we can't, whatever they were thinking, we might not have been able to physically or mentally put ourselves in their shoes. So I think it's similar to this sort of case. This one in particular, the argument is way stronger if she was having a manic episode.
Yeah, I'm not buying it.
I don't know. I've worked with someone who was having a manic episode in my line of work, and
it's incredible.
In general,
what they talk
what they
about
conjure up in their heads.
Yeah.
He genuinely believed that the CIA had a sniper posted up in the window nearby him.
My God.
And was just like looking in. Some of the things he was conjuring up, like one of the managers used to be able to morph underneath the door and speak to him in the night. But like he would be telling you as if it's plain as day. This is
fact.
100% fact. They genuinely believe it.
Can we get this guy on the show?
No.
Sounds like he could come up with some conspiracies.
So seeing that leads me to believe that if someone's having a full manic episode, what else could they do given a bit of freedom? Like, this was in a prison setting. So what if someone has complete freedom?
They go for a swim.
Apparently so. I think, given the fact that I can now make a informed decision,
can you?
I also have
really?
no idea what's going on.
As always in this show, we have no idea what to say.
No idea. No, I think it's a cross for me between her having a manic episode because there's proof in the autopsy that she wasn't taking stabilizers.
Yeah, and we've got video evidence
which is,
if we're assuming it's not being doctored.
Yes. But then the other side of it is, what if it is being doctored? Because that CCTV footage is weird. That is the biggest part of the case for a lot of people because it stands out and it's something visible that we can see. We're not only reading off Wikipedia or multiple different sources from YouTube. You know, it's something substantial you can look at and go, holy shit, this is actually the last time she was recorded as being alive. And it's weird as hell. She's not just walking past using the elevator. It's unexplainable. It's completely unexplainable. You could explain it, so it's explainable. But I mean, there's no substantial, like, definitive, this is why she is like this in this video. And that, for me, is the weirdest part. If you take the CCTV out of it, you can make other grounded deductions. It's still not perfect, but the CCTV just throws everything through a loop again, because why is she acting like that? In some aspects, it leans more, in my head, to it being a medication issue, whether hallucinogens or a manic episode, you know? But then it also leans to the fact that it's such a big part of it. Maybe it's because it was altered.
I really don't
motive.
think that's been altered
I don't know.
at all. I think it shows that she's having some psychological problems, and I think that makes it easier for a potential no good Nick to come along and
no good
Nick. That's what we call them nowadays.
They call him no good Nick on account of him being no good.
Yes. Name's Nick, no good. Yeah, it would make it easier for someone to take advantage of him, maybe, and then dispose of the body afterwards.
Yeah, from that side of things, yeah. I don't know. There is speculation around the CCTV being altered. To me, it looks like a poor quality video because it is literally just CCTV. It will be the lowest quality that it can be while still being watchable and substantial evidence for something, because that's the point. Another thing to wrap it up, because I think we've all given our opinions.
Spiel.
This was speculated to be inspired by other people's words, but inspired by the 2005 film Dark Water, which is a horror film where they move into a house and then water starts leaking from everywhere, and then it ends up being a ghost of a girl that drowned. Long story short. But she was found in a water tower. So it fits with this same sort of thing. A lot of people were hooked on, hang on, they're just copying, this murderer has copied Dark Water.
Oh, the murderer. Not
yeah,
her.
Or the supernatural side of it is exactly the same as Dark Water, you know, even though it was nothing to do with the hotel. But it was an apartment block, so she was found in the the water tower of the apartment block.
Close enough.
And it also had an elevator and stuff like that. So it had lots of similarities to this thing.
Yeah, maybe she was trying to refilm a version of Dark Water, but she messed up and ended up killing herself.
Maybe.
Like, she was like, okay, I know there's CCTV in the elevator, so I'll do a scene where I act weird in the elevator, and then afterwards I'll go up to the roof and jump in the water tower, and then I'll record that. But then she messed up and died.
But then where's the camera?
It's the editor stole it, and the movie is yet to be released.
Backtrack. Right, okay.
There was a cameraman with it.
Well, here's the thing that it actually was. It was a very negative reaction to a drug called Lam Elisa.
Yeah, and it makes you do really bad reenactments of films.
Yes.
Well, case solved. Thanks, Sean.
My work here is done.
Yep.
Ramblings of a Madman is currently available on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. All the links are available on Twitter at Roan Podcast, that's ROAN Podcast. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.